I'm Siena Schoelen. I'm with the Department of Speech, Language, and Hearing Sciences, and I'm working on the POWER project, and POWER stands for Profiles of Working Memory for Educational Research, and we got the power. So what is my research about? Well, my research is about how working memory develops over time in school-age children. Now, the next question is, what is working memory? So working memory is the ability to hold information in your mind and to manipulate it. So I want to do a little exercise. Everyone can see the little thought bubble on the slide. Just think about that problem in your head and try to solve it. I'll give you about a second. Okay, so hopefully if you were doing it in your head, you're able to figure out the answer. It should be 70. But that's an example of you using working memory. You're holding that information in your mind, and then you're performing an operation on it. So the next thing on my slide, as you can see, is the components of working memory. So there's three main portions of working memory. There is a task manager that directs focus of attention for things that you hear and for things that you see. There's the storage for the things that you hear, and then there's also the storage for the things that you see. Why is working memory, and why is this important? So working memory is important because it's related to how we learn and interact in a classroom environment. In a classroom setting, if a child's temporary storage is overloaded, or if they can't focus because they're thinking about Bowser, as you can see in my little diagram, they're not going to do as well as the other students, and they're going to fall behind. And in fact, limited working memory abilities have been linked to learning disabilities in children. And so this is where the POWER project comes in. So I'm working with my lab on the POWER project, which is to develop norms for a comprehensive working memory assessment for school-age children. And this whole assessment is really founded on the different components of working memory. So each subtest within the assessment focuses on each one of those three components we talked about earlier: the task manager, the storage for things you hear, or the storage for things that you can see. And the assessment is designed for children in that it's designed like a video game. Just a quick side note here. A lot of these tests for working memory can be kind of cumbersome and hard. And so we are designing it in a way that is good for kids and that we'll be able to get good data from them. One of the things that they have is we have a talking pirate, and you can see him pictured in the bottom corner. And he reads the instructions and helps motivate the child. And that's actually one of my favorite things about this project, is that most of it is automated so that the stimuli is presented the same every time, meaning that there's less variation, which leads to better internal validity, which is always a really great thing. Basically, the overall goal of this assessment is to help teachers, students, and families get an idea about what the student's working memory is like, so that way they can do better in education because of like catered plans and stuff. And so to help do that, my lab is running this assessment on lots of different kids, thousands, kindergartners, third graders, and first graders. Although right now we did the kindergartners last year, so now we're doing first grade and third grade. But unfortunately, we had to stop because of the coronavirus pandemic. Right now, we're mostly doing just post-scoring, things that we've already collected. But we are working on, hopefully, starting a remote version of this assessment so that way we can get back to testing. And then this slide is about the analogy for my research. And so basically, it's about the analogy. It's an analogy about a fireman and a rock star. The fireman, he works out, so he can get really buff for his job and be a really good fireman. And if so, we could say, okay, well, working out really helps the fireman at his job. Maybe the, rock star should do that too, so he can get better at his job. But no matter how much the musician works out, it's not going to make him any better at singing. Like, that doesn't make sense. And so that's kind of the idea behind this, is that we want to help find out what people's strengths and weaknesses are, that way, or children specifically. That way we can cater to them so that way they can do better in an educational setting. That's all I have. So thank you very much. Mr. Pirate says goodbye.